Welcome back to iReport University, Lesson 5, Crosstabs. Crosstabs are a little like tables, but a lot not like tables or like anything else in iReport for that matter. It seems clear that they were built by a completely different programming team than any other iReport component, as if Jaspersoft bought out some other little tech company and just pasted their code into iReport. The main functional difference is that crosstabs display data horizontally rather than vertically. So like in this instance, we have multiple sales orders with multiple items and they work down the page. Well, crosstabs could take some of this data and move them across the page to the right instead of vertically. Note that iReport pages are not dynamic. So once you set this width, this page width, in this case, what have we got? 612 pixels wide. It's not going to get any wider. So you're going to have to make that page wide enough to handle all the data that you expect to see. As you'll see in a minute, they are more complex to alter. You can't just reopen the wizard and adjust it. So I'll show you how, but really try to avoid that. Try and get it right the first time. Sometimes it's almost maybe preferable to just redo the crosstab if you have to make a significant change to it. But I'll show you how to do some of those basic ones in case that ever comes up. So let's do it. Let's modify our very simple report here. And instead of adding our items going down, we'll add them across in a crosstab. All right, so let's actually create ourselves a crosstab so you can see the process. I'm going to drag it in from our palette. So I'll Control-Shift-8. And there's crosstab. And let's drop it right here in the well, we could drop it in the detail. Let's put it in the summary band because this is going to run itself and we want a band that can expand. Okay, so first you choose the data set and we only have one. We only have the main query on this one. We didn't add any more. Next we choose what's going to show up on the left side, and let's try a little. Like rather than just go by sales order, let's go by customer and then in sales order, list both of those there. Next, we decide what's going to go across the top, and let's make this the product num. So we get one row for one column for every product, and we don't need to use both. We'll just add one. And then the data that we want to show per sales order and per product will be, of course, quantity to fulfill. And there's some options. Yeah, let's have our totals show up and we'll use those grid lines. So there it is. That's what the crosstab itself looks like. And in here, you see you've got some variables like this one here. You see this is the quantity to fulfill measure. See that word measure? That's kind of like a field elsewhere in iReport. So if you click on measures here, you'll see quantity to fulfill measure. And that comes from the quantity to fulfill field, which comes from your query. And since we're using it in this crosstab, it created a measure for it. So sometimes you can come in here and add a field and then add a measure and then tell it to display somewhere, or maybe there's something that has a product num measure, a product number, and the customer says, actually, I want the product number and the description. So you don't even have to change it here. You could just go in the query and where it says product num, you could add it. Here, I'll show you. You could say concatenate product num plus maybe a dash, and then the description. And we'll alias it the same. So the query gets different information here, but then it passes it through the report and it appears where product num appeared. So we don't need to make any other changes. So that's probably the easiest way to change a crosstab once it's made. Let's compile this and see how it looks. And we get an error. I probably forgot to add a comma. Yes, after I added my new thing, there we go. That might just be the most common mistake you'll ever make. I think it is for me. Okay, so here we got our detail band and our report groups repeating over and over. And then when we jump to page 2, here is our crosstab. And notice that like this order doesn't have any of these product numbers, so it shows 0. But once you jump down to Carrie Ann's order here, you see she's got 1 of each of these and 2 of that. And since this page, since it went wider than the page, whatever is on sales order 10,004, it wraps down here. So let's make this page wider so it'll all fit on one page and we can see what we're doing a little bit better. Let's go just 2,500 pixels wide. So we're gonna have this blank space that's like always there. And let's also make this crosstab wider to fill some of that space. There we go. Now it can go all the way over to that right margin. And refresh. Now it's only 2 pages and our entire crosstab fits right here with space to spare. So there you go. Sales order 10,004. It's got 1 B201 and you see the description's not entirely fitting there. We've got a BP one and a couple of these parts. So if this part is in any of these reports showing up in our list, you get a column for it, and then you can see the quantity down there below. We also have our product totals per sales order and total products per sales order, along with our grand totals down below, just like we said. So let's just make a quick modification. Let's make this taller so that the descriptions can fit. And let's get rid of all this stuff because this data is really replaced by the crosstab. So we can just get rid of this whole band. In fact, let's just get rid of this group. Don't need that anymore. That'll delete the header and footer band for the group. And we don't need these column headers anymore either because nothing's appearing below those. So delete that. And for the crosstab, we'll just expand that header size, as well as increasing the size of these fields within them. There we go. And maybe we could even make this column a little bit wider so it doesn't wrap quite as much. Probably don't need it that tall, but we'll leave it there just in case. Okay, that looks a little better. We didn't need that space. And let's get rid of this detail band, which even though it doesn't have anything in it, it's still taking up space because it has a bunch of rows that it's returning from the query. That's better. All right, and if you want to modify this thing, unless it's a really simple modification, I highly recommend just recreating it. Maybe save a copy of this one for reference, but that wizard's pretty easy, selecting your columns and rows and everything, isn't it? So much easier than trying to modify this, getting deep into this code and arrangements and sorting out what does what. But hey, if you're more adventurous than me, go ahead and play around with these row groups and column groups and everything, and good luck. All right. Thanks for watching. As always, enjoy your day. We'll see you next time.